Il y a loco, aucun ne peut manger. Il y a du tchèp, il y a ça, il y a mafé et fakoy. Il y a coco, aucun ne peut manger. Quand il va signer le kabala magala, abe makoro manko. Africa, 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 Africa. Koronara bugula sobo mabelena, abe makoro manko. Africa, 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 Africa. Koronara bugula sobo mabelena, abe makoro manko. Africa, 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 Africa. Africa, 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 oh Africa, Africa, oh Africa, oh yeah, oh, 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 oh. Africa, 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 oh Africa, Africa, oh Africa, oh yeah, oh, 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 oh. Africa, Africa, Africa.
President Joe Biden sees Vladimir Putin as a war criminal. That are his words and not mine. Joe Biden said that
Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire. Not just a piece, he wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then do you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away.
through a debate which took place on the CNN as the first 2024 general election debate in the US. Well, the two candidates were asked a question to know what kind of relationship or what they can come up as a solution to what has been going on in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine. So the two candidates, President Donald Trump and Joe Biden, they had to give their different point of view. So I'm inviting you first to have a listen to what Joe Biden had given his answer. Then after that, we'll be back with more analysis.
That Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire. Not just a piece, he wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then do you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? By the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
Thank you. Moving on to the Middle East. In October, Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
Number one, everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, What's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are two different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Well, guys, that is how Joe Biden, with his administrations, they get to see Vladimir Putin. That is how they qualify the relationship between the US and Russia because of what's been happening in Ukraine. They put all the blame on Vladimir Putin and they consider him as a criminal. That was the answer which Joe Biden had to give through this debate that took place. But was that the same point of view with Donald Trump, who was his arrival in this debate that took place? Well, I don't want to say much on what Donald Trump had said, but I'm inviting you first to have a listen to what Donald Trump has to give as an answer. Then I'll be back with more analysis. Have a watch.
But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president. They attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want. Do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. Listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
Just going back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent $100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting all, you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one that wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. You're going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. the idea that our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay. They asked me that question, would you guard us against Russia, at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time. And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Listening very well to both two candidates who participate in this CNN first debate of their 2024 elections in the US, well, you can tell that they are having two different opinions. On one side, you are having Joe Biden, who represents the Democratic, blaming Vladimir Putin, calling him names, and condemning him on what he's been doing in Ukraine and encouraging whatsoever is giving as a reasons on how they managed to spend a lot of money in Ukraine, encouraging that's the good things to do, because allowing Vladimir Putin going to take over Ukraine, it will be something which will be against the democracy, to be something which has to be violating another country's sovereignty. Well, that sounds kind of a good idea listening to it, but still again, what happened to those countries which the US with its allies, they have invaded? What happened to all countries that the US with its allies, they're still controlling their economies and everything? Is that not violating the right of these countries? Is that not entering into another sovereign country? That's just a question, and we're leaving that to you, because I'm having feelings to say that it is if like these people, they feel more comfortable when they do things according to how it suits them.
I think this notion of international rules is very comfortable for some people to use when it suits them, but they don't believe in international rules when it doesn't suit them, because they don't apply international rules or law equally in all circumstances. So you can't say because Ukraine has been invaded that suddenly sovereignty is important, but it was never important for Palestine. It's very peculiar. If you believe in international law truly, then wherever sovereignty is infringed, it must apply. And this is the point we've been making, that we use the framework of international law unequally, depending on who is affected. And we are arguing that that must change. See, that's where international law begins to mean nothing. Because for some, we see it as a cheating, and for others, we see it as a benefit.
And when these things, same things that they are doing to other nations, if it's being done by another country, then they will consider that country as a country of criminals, as a country that violates the right of other people, as a country that cross the red line and start interfering in other sovereign countries. That is how they've been doing it. But why doing all this? Why behaving in such kind of way? It is if like you want to show to everyone around the world that we are a big brother and everyone should be respecting us. Because proof to that, when you listen to the point of view which Donald Trump, the former president of the USA, who had to come back also and correct Joe Biden on what he had said, you'll understand Donald Trump is first blaming Joe Biden that he have damaged this country, referring to the USA, saying that Joe Biden, he has made the USA lost its respect, that due respect that other nations usually sees them out. He blamed Joe Biden, saying that it is thanks to him Vladimir Putin had the courage to go and invade Ukraine and starting a war over there. He blamed Joe Biden, saying that he have make America lost that things that other nations fear about America. This again take us to what I just told you, that actually these people, they kind of like enjoying it more when they are doing things against other nations around the world, or just because they want to make their voice be heard out there to everyone. So therefore they kind of like want to remain that position. So when one of them come and betray them as Joe Biden did, they are now considering Joe Biden as their enemy, because he managed to make their country, which is the USA, to not be respected by everyone out there. He kind of like blaming Joe Biden for wakening up the eyes of everyone because of his mistake that he make. Because like it or not, when you look what is happening in Ukraine, when you look what is happening in the Middle East, where there's Israel, Hamas, and Palestine, Iran, and all these people, you'll definitely understand and agree with me that they don't deserve that due respect. You'll see for yourself that the Western, they are the most hypocrite people that this world never had. You will understand that these people, they don't respect what they preach. They'll come and tell you about how to respect the human right, how to respect democracy and everything. But at the contrary, these people, they don't apply none of these things.
President Biden, President Biden, President Biden, Mr. Blinken, Mr. Blinken, can you hear me? Prime ministers and presidents of the European countries, can you hear me? Can you hear the screams from Shifa Hospital, from Wildest Hospital? Can you hear the screams from innocent people, refugees sheltering, trying to find a safe place, being bombed by the Israeli attack forces this morning inside the hospital? Hospitals that are the temples of humanity and protection. When are you going to stop this? You're all complicit.
For me, I think for so many of us, what we're seeing every single day in Gaza is gut-wrenching. And the suffering we're seeing among innocent men, women, and children breaks my heart. The question is, what is to be done?
More than 30,000 Palestinians have been killed, most of whom are not Hamas. Thousands and thousands of innocent women and children, girls and boys, also orphaned. Nearly 2 million more Palestinians under bombardment or displacement. Homes destroyed, neighborhoods in rubble, cities in ruin, families without food, water, medicine. It's heartbreaking.
The Irish people are deeply troubled about the catastrophe that's unfolding before our eyes in Gaza. And when I travel the world, leaders often ask me why the Irish have such empathy for the Palestinian people. And the answer is simple. We see our history in their eyes, a story of displacement, of dispossession, and national identity questioned and denied, forced emigration, discrimination, and now hunger.
That is even one of the reasons why you saw now they are hating the France President Emmanuel Macron, all because of his mistake that, according to them, of course, which end up alerting or wakening up all the Africans, especially African youth, who have said no to France, who have said no to their former colonials and tried to kick them out from African continent. Since we all know that France, they've been surviving all thanks to Africa. France, British, Belgium, Italy, Germany, all these Europe countries, they know very well that whatsoever they have achieved so far, it all comes from African continent. So seeing Africans waking up, it does not sit okay with them. It's kind of like making them get angry against each and every individuals who have committed that mistake of making Africans to be aware of what they've been doing. Right now, they are busy hating Emmanuel Macron. They are busy calling him names and they want him to resign from the office. All because Emmanuel Macron is one of the first French presidents who came and have an open conversation with Africans, who allow Africans to tell him the truth right in his face, to tell him on how the France former colonials, they've been looting Africa and all the kind of crimes they've been doing in Africa continent.
Monsieur le Président.
Emmanuel Macron, you allow the new generation to recognize an African youth who, before wanting to talk about the future, call for forgiveness for the crime of colonization. We are going to do it more and more, if it is a chimera to want a future with the pleasures of the past. We challenge presidents. This past is heavy and continues to possess our groups. I invite you to take here and even in strong commitments, strong decisions to recognize and agree to ask for by the African continent. The French president refuses once again. Forgiveness would mean that in some way, I would like to untie myself, and I do not believe in a policy of forgiveness in any case in the link that there is between France and France. I believe in a policy of recognition. The exchanges are in concession. The head of state expected his doubt to graze as much shaken as when a Malian youth reproaches him of his policy. Come on, it's paternalism. Says we're going to help you, we're going no. We're not going to need help. We need cooperation. We need partnerships, and we are linked by history. But we are bound by the elderly. We are bound by the challenges. But I agree 100% with what you said, but afterward, you can't tell me. We must have a balanced, reciprocal dialogue and tell me as soon as I speak to you with the courage to tell you the truth. I would be paternalistic. I am not paternalistic, I am sincere. The explanations are clear and the members of the panel are calling for changes in relations between France and the countries of the continent. No more support for authoritarian regimes, no more development aid. Development aid has been going around Africa for almost a century, it's not working. Emmanuel Macron agrees, it will now be about investment. The French president immediately announces the creation of Children of Innovations for Democracy in Africa. Finally, the commitment had already been made in 2018, the restitution of the 26 works looted from the Palace of Abom. It went to Benin at the end of October.
So, him allowing this African youth, having this open conversation with him and telling him the truth right in his face, while his words that he had given to these Africans, it seemed to be a big betrayal for his fellow France people, because they can see that now that they have lost that respect. They feel like Africans, they are no longer respecting them. These are the same thing in what Joe Biden and Donald Trump, they have said so far, because you see that they are blaming one another. Donald Trump is blaming Joe Biden, saying that he have messed up. That's the reason why the US is no longer respected out in the world. But it's only blaming Joe Biden on what is happening in Ukraine, between Ukraine and Russia, and what is happening in the Middle East.
We will destroy Hamas, free our hostages, and ensure that Gaza doesn't ever pose a threat to Israel again. We will finish the job in Rafah while enabling the civilian population to get out of harm's way. We've taken measures to minimize civilian casualties that no other army has taken in history.
There are no more words to speak about what's going on in Gaza. There are no more laws to break. There are no more appeals that we can do to what's going on. The hypocrisy is obvious. Our collective humane has failed. We said that we won't fail, but we're failing again. human rights have a skin color, and the darker you are, the less human rights you have.
But Israel had a right to go to war against Hamas, but not the Palestinian people.
And do you think that's what they've done?
Oh, of course, that's what they've done. Look, with 2/3 of the casualties are women and children, when medical infrastructure has been largely destroyed, when people don't have any water, when children are starving, yes, it's a war against the Palestinian people.
I mean, you faced quite a lot of criticism recently.
I face criticism every day, no matter what you do, and that's my line of work, and I accept it.
Yeah, some barracking over this word, over the whole word about genocide.
People are talking about what constitutes genocide, all that stuff. Fine. Frankly, what we should be talking about is how we stop this damn war. Do you have an international court of justice which is defining what genocide means? What we can agree on, I certainly see, is a mass slaughter of women and children, which is unacceptable, which has got to end. And as a United States Senator, I am leading the effort in the Congress to make sure that Netanyahu doesn't get the money he needs to.
But they had no courage to mention on what is happening in Africa. Whereas it is the journalist who put this question to them. He did not mention anything about Africa. Yes, I'm telling you, I watched the whole entire debate. I even upload it for you guys on our channel. If you have not watched it, go and watch the entire debate, which took about almost 2 hours. I did not see where they discuss about Africa affairs, and I was just laughing where I was seated. Do you know why? Because there is something bigger which is going on. Yes, something bigger it is going on when it comes to the Western, the US, NATO, all of them, as you call them, G7, G20, all these Western countries. They are in a very big fight right now as we're talking, and they are fighting over a beautiful woman which call Africa continent with its mineral resource. I'll disclose more about this in our next videos, and I'm inviting you to not miss this video because there's a lot of revelation that we had discovered about what is happening right now in the US foreign policy, especially to what comes to Africa continent. Well, these people, they are planning to recolonize again Africa by force, all because they are no longer in control of Africans, all because they have feel like they are losing Africa to other countries such as Russia, China, India, these countries who are willing to work with Africa in that due respect. So they're kind of like fighting right now. I'm inviting you to stay tuned to our channel so that you'll understand exactly what is happening right now. How are them trying to attack one another over Africa continent? So I was not surprised when I saw this journalist putting all the questions to them, but yet forgetting about Africa, which we all know that they always want to be in Africa affairs, which we know that they always want their presence to be in Africa politics. If there is some elections, you see them coming up and telling you that no, blah, blah, you must respect democracy, no, what, we were wishing you for a peaceful election and what. If there is a small disaster or maybe there's something happen or military coup, they're the first one to jump on the front line and say that, okay, we don't recognize this military coup, we don't do that. But yet, when they're busy debating on how to deal with foreign policies, they forget about Africa. I was not surprised about that. You guys who saw recently in the election we had over here in South Africa, they were the first one to jump in the front line saying that no, the US with Europe, we are ready to provide you guys with some observers. And we look out, I'm like, okay, what the hell? Like, just like that? You want to come and interfere in South Africa elections? When you guys were having your own election over there in Europe or America, can you give me one of the African country which have you allowed to come and observe your elections? They never even allowed the AU, African Union. They never even allowed them to go over there. But stupid also, as we are Africans sometimes, we had the courage even to allow the Europeans in some of African countries to let them come in and observe our elections. That is how they are controlling us from far. And that is something that needs to be stopped. So I was not surprised by all this, because they can't come and expose themselves, like the journalists can't come and put this question to them in front of everyone, whereby the whole entire world, they are watching this debate, and they should be hearing Donald Trump with Joe Biden debating on how they will handle Africa. Because if they could put this question to them, guys, trust me, this was going to expose them again even more. This was going to open the entire world eyes. This was going to revolt the African youth, which is already start having it on a revolution, to understand that, okay, so this is how you guys, you are planning to deal with Africa. Well, this African youth will have come also with another new strategy in order to stand against these mafias that the Western, they've been always wanting to put on Africa continent. So guys, the debate took that long. They asked themselves questions which they feel like it was more suitable with their own Western medias, which we all know that they always propaganda good for their own advantage or for their own benefits. So they kill each other over there. We saw how the Democrats, they were divided over the way the performance of Joe Biden. Some they were like, no, the man is too old, he should be retiring or maybe stepping down and let someone else to come in order for the Democrat candidate to defeat the Republican candidate, which is Donald Trump. On the other side, we saw the Republic with Trump himself celebrating on how they managed to defeat Joe Biden through this first debate. On the other side, still again, the Democrats blaming Trump, saying that no, he's a liar because he make a false couple of accusations against Joe Biden, but unfortunately, Joe Biden could not be able to defend himself because the man looked tired. Well, himself, Joe Biden, have said it. He said that I'm no longer that good as I used to debate before. I'm not blaming him. Myself, I'm not blaming him because the man is old. Yes, we have seen his footage back in days. Even in the previous election that took over there, he was doing very good in debates. But this time, you can just tell that he's too old, man. He's too old. So we shall wait and see how it will happen. But that does not concern me at all. I'm just saying it because I know that in the middle center of all this politics, there is Africa seated somewhere there. Yes, and me as an African, I have to come and waken up my fellow Africans all over around the world for them to understand the kind of games that is happening right here. So about who won this debate, who did not won, me, I'm not even there. I even put questions on our poll. I ran up a poll asking you guys who won this debate. I saw, of course, most of people say that no, it is Donald Trump, and so far Donald Trump is leading with 82% in this first debate. We'll see again what will happen, but at the end of the day, well, whoever's gonna come and take over, as long they must know how to respect Africans with African minerals, I think will be good. But if they come with the same nonsense, well, they will have to find African youth on their way. Okay, so I think that is the simple message we should we should take from all this. Above all, guys, we appreciate your time to watch this video until now. Thank you so much for taking your time to share also your point of view with us through the comment section. We really do appreciate that. So before you leave, make sure that you like this video in your number. Give us your thumbs up. You see the thumbs button, just click on it so that this video can be recommended to many people out there, so that they can also watch it. It's free of charge, by the way. So if you find anything beneficial and you would like to catch more from us, this Pan-African platforms that which we have created, so that we can be having this kind of conversation that concern Africa continent and try to talk about different matters that is happening in Africa continent. Well, you are more than welcome to feel free and subscribe to the channel. Hit that subscribe button so that whenever we're live here, you'll be able to catch and hear from us. That will be all for today. For now, continue to be yourself, be good, be kind, have respect for everyone in order for you to be respected. May God bless you all. I'll see you again very soon in our next video. Ciao, ciao.
babele na be makoro